How does Pro Football Focus feel about the Seattle Seahawks defensively? What's going on, everybody? Good morning. Happy Wednesday. Hope you guys are doing well. Streaming tonight on the Bleacher Report. Catch it. Should be going live right around 6 o'clock Pacific. So tune in. We're going to talk about Seahawks stuff. You can chat if you have an account so we can interact a little bit. And today's video is going to be a follow-up to yesterday's video because Pro Football Focus has finished their position grouping rankings. And I always think this is interesting to look at. And I know Pro Football Focus does a lot of really good, really hard work. That doesn't mean they're always going to be right. And I'm going to go ahead and say it right now. In this particular instance, I don't think they're particularly right. But I know they put a lot of work into getting where they landed. So I think it's worth looking at. What they've done is they've listed out every team in order of the best to worst in their view at each defensive positional group. It's like yesterday where they did running back, wide receiver, and offensive line. Now on defense, they're doing defensive line, linebacker, secondary. So I wanted to take a look and see what they had here. You would think that this would be a lot better for the Seahawks. You would think that this would look pretty good because this is the area of the team that has gotten the bigger investments, and this is the area of the team that has a lot more stability. We'll see if that ends up being the case. Please click the thumbs up button on this video if you haven't already. Subscribe if you're new. Click the bell for notifications. Become a channel member for $2 a month. Those are the best ways to support the channel. We're going to go ahead and start with the defensive line. And this one, we got to understand what Pro Football Focus is doing here. So when I talk about the defensive line with the Seahawks, I mostly talk about the down linemen, which is Leonard Williams, Byron Murphy, Jarran Reed, Jonathan Hankins, maybe Riley Mills. Those guys who actually put their hand in the dirt and go up against interior linemen most of the time. That's not what Pro Football Focus has done. And that's probably why their ranking is what it is. But they are evaluating the whole defensive line, including the edge rushers. So understand that. This is the guys I listed, but also Nwosu, Mafe, Hall, DeMarcus Lawrence, etc. Understand that, because without that, this doesn't make any sense. So we scroll down here. We got the Steelers, Eagles, Giants, Texans, Bills. We're scrolling. We're going through. Where are the Seahawks? We found them. 23rd out of 32 teams. Not good. In fact, I think that might be qualified as bad. That's actually bad. And this is alarming because theoretically this should be the strength of the team. And yet, if you think about it, you can understand how they get here. Generally speaking, there is more attention being placed on the edge rushers on a defense than the interior, which is probably a mistake. And if that is what Pro Football Focus is doing here, I think they are committing an error. However, that is where the problem is. You have Leonard Williams, that Pro Football Focus, they know how good he is, right? We know how good Leonard Williams is. Believe me, so does Pro Football Focus. Earned the highest PFF overall grade of his career last year, 87.1, fourth among 118 interior defenders. So they believe he's one of the best players in football. Has nothing to do with Leonard Williams. However, they do call out the need for Jarran Reed to continue to play at a high level. He is 32 now, so that's not guaranteed. And the only edge rusher they mention here is Boye Mafe, needing him to take that next step. I think this is wrong. I do. I think that first of all, I think it's wrong in terms of what is on the field. I also think it's kind of wrong in terms of what Pro Football Focus has already told us. We know that they thought Leonard Williams was elite because they ranked him very high when they ranked individual interior linemen. We know that they love Byron Murphy. They ranked him in the top 30 for interior defensive linemen, even though he hasn't really done anything to earn it, pretty much completely based off the fact that they liked him so much in college, they believe he's going to be really good this year. You can go back and look at that article. They put him, I want to say, 25th. And they admitted it's just because we think he was so good in college, there's no way he won't be at least really good in the NFL. So if you like Leonard Williams and you're high on Byron Murphy and you're acknowledging that Jarran Reed is playing at a high level and that's your interior, I don't know how you get to 23rd. And I know the edge rusher room is a problem. I understand that completely. We don't have any top edge rushers on this team as of right now. But that interior should be making that up. That's how I look at things. That's how I view this. And as someone who has certain expectations for this team when the season starts, I know we don't have a star edge rusher right now. I understand that. But it's a pretty deep edge rusher room. There are 4 guys that can all do really good things out there. And I include Derek Hall in that, who I'm not super high on right now, but he's young. He's got 1 real season in the NFL so far where he was actually able to meaningfully contribute. I don't think you can write the book on him yet and think that you know everything that there is to know about him. I don't think there are a lot of teams out there that have 4 good edge rushers the way we do. Now, those teams might have a Myles Garrett level player. Those teams might have a TJ Watt level player, and that's more valuable, for sure. I just don't think 23rd jives with reality, and I don't think it jives with the list that PFF already gave us. I know how they got here. It's because of the edge rusher room being so lukewarm at best. I don't think this is right. I don't think this is going to be reflective of the results we get. Now, linebacker, and this is purely off-ball linebacker. So this would be Ernest Jones, Tyrese Knight, I guess Drake Thomas, Pat O'Connell, that group. It's not the pass rushers. It's not Nwosu, not Mafe, not Hall, etc. A little bit siloed. And overall, I feel like I know Pro Football Focus does things this way. I'm not a big fan of this, where they basically said we're going to lump the entire defensive line for every defense into one category, and then we're going to lump the entire secondary into one category, and then we're just going to have this dangling little linebacker position. I think if you're going to... I think the right move would have been to separate the interior from the edge rushers and the corners from the safeties. I guess that's more work, but I think that makes more sense. In any case, Eagles, Lions, Patriots, Chiefs, Commanders, we're going. And yeah, even worse. 24th out of 32. I kind of get it. I don't think that it's right. I will say this. Pro Football Focus does not like Ernest Jones that much. They think that he's been a good run defender, but overall they don't think he's that good of a player. They're not big fans of Ernest Jones, and that's their right. And on some level, I kind of understand how they got there, but it's ignoring all the context. We saw this defense before Ernest Jones got here, and we saw this defense after Ernest Jones got here. It was a big difference. And Ernest Jones was a big chunk of the reason why. So I do think that acting like Ernest Jones is a league average linebacker, which is basically what PFF says when they rank him where they rank him and then they grade him where they grade him, I think it's missing something that speaks to Pro Football Focus's inability to really grade the safeties and linebackers all that well. I think they do a lot of things good. I would say that safety and linebacker are 2 positions they really struggle with. I think they'd even admit that because zone defense is hard. And guys who play a lot of zone, and that includes some corners as well, actually, it's hard for them to really drill to the meaningful data there, I think. I think they'd even admit that. That being said, they do think Ernest Jones is a credible player. They do have some concerns about Tyrese Knight's experience. Look, there's not really a ton I can say to convince an outsider about Tyrese Knight, especially when that outsider is PFF. He recorded a 65.4 overall grade in his debut season, which is really good for a rookie who was a day 3 pick, right? 65.4 for a guy who wasn't expected to play very much at all as a rookie and then gets thrown out there. That's actually really exciting. And I would hope that Pro Football Focus looks at that and thinks to themselves, wow, this guy could be really good. This guy should make strides forward. How many times do you see an NFL player peak as a rookie at a position like linebacker? Not often. I just feel like there's a little bit of disrespect there that is unwarranted. I understand that he hasn't done it yet, but when you take a look at his above average play last year and the fact that he was a rookie who kind of got thrown into the line of fire when he wasn't expected to be a starter or much of a contributor at all, and then things kept happening in front of him, you would think that you would give that a little bit more credit. Now, this next part, there's not much to say. Josh Ross, Drake Thomas, Pat O'Connell, those are the next 3 linebackers on the depth chart. They really have not played in the NFL. I cannot say much about that. The depth is very weak at linebacker. We don't really have anything going on at the backup linebacker spot. I think McDonald likes Ross because he was with him in Baltimore. And I'll say there's a little bit interesting with Drake Thomas, but there's nothing that can be shouted out positively right now. But I think this is selling the linebackers a little bit short. One more group. We have the secondary, and this is where you would expect things to be great. This is where you would expect things to be at a top level. Ravens, Chiefs, Broncos, Texans, Patriots, Okay, 12th. That's not really what I think a lot of Seahawks fans were expecting, and I don't think it's where a lot of Seahawks fans think things will be. I don't know why Pro Football Focus came to this conclusion because we saw their individual player rankings already. We know that they think Witherspoon and Woolen are both top 20 cornerbacks. I think they had Witherspoon at 12 and they had Woolen at, I want to say, 19. We know they had Julian Love at, I want to say, 11th best safety in the league. And they had Kobe Bryant at 32, which that's not that high, but it makes you a slightly above average starting safety, approximately. I don't know. This one, I struggled to really understand here. Depth remains a major question mark. So we've signed Shaq Griffin, who has been a very much viable NFL player in recent years. He was a very viable player for the Vikings defense that was one of the best defenses in the league last year. I don't think that keeping us out of the top 10 makes a lot of sense, especially when you've got like the Jets here. The Jets here at 11, they lost DJ Reed. DJ Reed's not there anymore. I don't see how that secondary is better than ours. I know PFF loves Sauce Gardner, and we're not going to be able to get them off of that love, but even when you account for that, I just don't know how you get there. You got the Colts ranked ahead of us. I don't know. I'm having a hard time buying that one. Maybe it's just a simple matter of they need to see that big breakout season from Witherspoon where he becomes a guy who takes the ball away and dominates in coverage, and he's doing all his stuff as a tackler. Maybe they feel like they just haven't seen it quite enough yet, but I'll say it again. They ranked both of our starting corners in the top 20, and they ranked both of our safety, well, top 32, I guess, but Julian Love was ranked, I want to say, 11th. And again, Shaq Griffin, I think that I feel like this paragraph might have been written before we signed Shaq Griffin. Depth remains a major question mark. I would have agreed with that, but then we signed Shaq Griffin. I guess he's a little bit of a question mark, but I wouldn't consider him a major question mark. And what about Josh Jobe, who played respectably well for the team last year? Then they say there will be a wait and see approach with Kobe Bryant, which, okay, whatever. He hasn't even had a full good season yet. I will say, I think it's kind of weird that they mentioned Kobe Bryant's grade being so bad in 2023 when he did not play that much. They mentioned that he was a 34 grade in 2023. I don't even know if he got to 150 snaps on the season. I don't know why they're taking that to be meaningful. He played his first season at safety last season, and he immediately looked like a good player. I think that deserves a little more credit than that. And then they say there will be a wait-and-see approach with rookie Nick Emenwari. I will admit this. Pro Football Focus, they didn't really like Emenwari that much in the draft. They had him ranked as a third-round pick. They're not... So at the very least, they're not talking out of both sides of their mouth here. If they had ranked Emenwari as a low first or high second round pick, and then they were taking this approach where Emenwari was a complete mystery box, I would question that. But they didn't like Emenwari that much, so I guess that's understandable. I still don't know if I would say things are a major question mark when you do have a guy like Emenwari, who was a high second round pick, as the first backup off the bench. But yeah, I'm surprised. I thought this Seahawks secondary would rank really high here. I wasn't shocked about the defensive line thing because of the edge rusher stuff. The linebacker stuff, again, I expected because they don't think Ernest Jones is all that. I thought for sure that the secondary would be ranked higher than 12. That's not even really good. That's above average. I wouldn't even call 12 out of 32 good. That's just above average to me. All right. Unless they're going to do special teams, and I don't think they've done special teams before, that's actually it for Pro Football Focus. I know ESPN is doing something kind of sort of like this now, and I'll talk about that in the coming days. But I did want to go ahead and wrap up the PFF part because they kind of left us dangling where they wrote most of the articles, and then they waited like 2 weeks, and then they released the last two over the last couple days. So this was something I was planning to do, but I wanted to let them finish first, and now they finally have. So thank you for watching. Let me know what you think down below. I don't think a lot of people are going to agree with this, and I got to be honest, I don't. I think that all three of these rankings are selling us short, maybe not by a massive amount, but by some amount. And I don't think this is consistent with what Pro Football Focus had to say when they individually ranked some of our players either. So I'm not sure I'm not jiving with this. Okay. See you guys later. Go Hawks. Either later today or tomorrow. See ya. Go Hawks.